there. What's up, my NSAFs? Welcome to my channel, and wow, okay, we have a very, very special video. If you couldn't tell from the thumbnail or the title, I have the honor and privilege of interviewing one of She-Ra's head writers, Josie Campbell! Welcome, Josie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk about She-Ra and pretty much every nerdy thing I'm working on.
Fantastic. You and me both. Thank you so much for being here. Our mutual friend, shout out to Jenna. She hooked this up and got us in contact. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I collected some fan questions from you guys to ask Josie. So we're going to answer some of those. We're going to talk about some of new projects that Josie is a part of. And we're also going to be reacting to some of her favorite scenes from She-Ra and kind of just giving a little bit of information on that. So it's going to be a super fun video. So grab your snacks, get comfortable. This is going to be super fun. And I hope you're excited, Josie. I'm excited.
I'm very excited.
All right, cool. So first, let's start off. For those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself. What kind of work do you do? And yeah, just a little bit about you.
I'm a TV writer, specifically working in animation. Pretty much, I grew up as a geek loving anything that had princesses and superheroes and princesses with swords and princesses who turned into superheroes. So I've been out here working as a TV writer and producer in Los Angeles, and also now making a foray in the last couple of years into comic books, where I've been writing stuff for DC Comics, and there's like a couple more comic stuff coming out next year through DC that I'm very excited about. So anything that's got, women transforming with swords, anything that's got, people flying around in tights, anything that's got kids being chased by dinosaurs. I firmly live in a fantasy world.
I love that. I mean, fantasy worlds are more fun.
They are. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Like, shoot, I wish I had half the powers I would see in these fantasy shows. Like, that'd be amazing. I did see you just released the first issue of the new Champion of Shazam. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the new Champion of Shazam is a 4-issue miniseries that's coming out from DC, and it's also going to be collected into, I believe, a hardcover and softcover book next year. I think probably around May or so. But yeah, it follows an established DC character, Mary, who is part of the Shazam family. So if you've ever seen the movie Shazam that came out, I think 2 years ago, about a kid who says the word Shazam and transforms into a superhero, and he's got a whole foster family. This is about his sister from that. She has just gotten to enroll in her dream college as the series starts. She's ready to start her new life. And then her brother sends her a magical talking bunny that's like, there's new threats. You have to be a superhero again. Put all your dreams away. You're going to be a superhero. And it's about her dealing with that and trying to balance her life between having to go back to Philly where her family is, having to be a superhero, wanting to do college, and the magical threats coming up that only she as a superhero can tackle. So the first 3 issues now at this point are now out in both your local comic book stores, and also you can buy them online on the Kindle Amazon app.
Sweet.
And then, you can pre-order the full story. All 4 issues are being collected, and that's up for actually pre-order right now over Amazon. So you can check it out there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'll definitely make sure to include those links. So any of you guys want to check that out, it sounds super interesting. I love that it's a magical bunny that comes to tell her the news. That's awesome.
Yeah, his name is Hoppy, and he very much would like to be given some carrots and apple slices because he's done a very good job giving this message, and now he would like his reward, please.
Of course. I mean, he just sounds like the goodest boy, so it's like, why not?
Yeah, bestest boy's rabbit. Yeah.
Oh my god, I love that. Okay, that is exciting. That sounds super dope. That's definitely something I would actually get myself. I love comics. One of the latest DC comics I got was the full version of the Harley and Ivy.
Oh, I love that stuff.
Right.
Well, and it just got announced. I'm very excited because next year I'm also writing some backup issues for the G. Willow Wilson Wonder Woman sort of Revenge of the Gods story that DC's putting together. So I'm very excited. I'm living my dreams right now.
That's heck yeah, you are. Oh shit, that sounds sick. Oh
yeah, okay. Yeah.
Gotta love some Wonder Woman. I mean,
oh yeah, she's great. She's an original. Yeah.
OG. So following that, there's even more DC stuff. So you have this really awesome animation show coming out next year. It is called My Adventures with Superman.
Mhm.
There were actually some questions about that. So there were some fans
Okay.
who already know that you are involved in this. So if there's anything you can tell us, what would
Mhm.
it be without spoiling too much?
Great. Well, yeah, My Adventures with Superman is an animated series. It's starring Jack Quaid as Clark Kent slash Superman, and he's incredible. Like, he's so funny. He gets it he does such a good job going from like a bumbling Clark Kent to like a more confident Superman. But yeah, Alice Lee is our Lois Lane, and the comedian Ishmael Saeed is our Jimmy Olsen. And
Nice.
basically, it's about the three of them, Clark, Lois, and Jimmy, starting out and becoming the heroes that they're going to be. So, at the start of our series, they're interns at the Daily Planet rather than the established reporters that everybody knows. And I think the biggest thing that we've been telling people is we pitch this as a rom-com with punching. So the romance with Clark and Lois is like full front, like as much a part of this series as is the tights, as is the capes, as is the fighting. So if you like romance, if you like a trio of three idiots trying to make their way in the world, if you like superheroes, like you're going to like My Adventures with Superman.
I love that. If you like punching and rom-com, this
Yeah.
is it. This is for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Punching and kissing is going to be happening.
Not at the same time,
You'll
right?
have to watch the series to find out.
That's awesome. I guess stay tuned, guys. Stay tuned. That
Stay
actually that
tuned.
sounds like a lot of fun. I would definitely check that out.
Mhm.
Ooh, maybe I can even add that to my reaction list. Hey,
Ooh, yes,
if you
please.
guys want to see that, let me know in the comments if you would like to see me do reactions to that. That would be super cool. So let's get into some of these questions. I have a combination of some fan questions and then just some curious questions I had myself
Sure.
to just kind of learn a little bit more about you. So I guess my first question for you would be, do you experience writer's block? And if so, do you have a process to get out of it?
It's very funny. Once I'm on a project and we're like fully in production, I don't experience writer's block. I hit it when we're developing something or creating a show. So I think a lot of it is getting in your own head about being like, oh no, that's a bad idea before you can even write it down, which I think a lot of people do. So
Yeah.
for me, I have a file on my computer that is called like the dump file, which is I just start writing in it and I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's probably bad. You don't have to worry about it. Just start writing, just dump it all in. And then afterwards I look and I'm like, okay, that wasn't actually too bad. And I can like copy and paste the good parts out of it. So
Cool.
so just forcing myself to write anyhow and then just see what comes out for sure.
Nice. So would you say then working with a group, like a writers group or a writers team definitely helps to prevent the writer's block?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things that's, everybody's minds coming together in the room helps you think about solutions that maybe you on your own would not have. Or you're like, I don't know what to do with this character. And somebody will pipe up and like, well, obviously, this is what we need to do with them. So yeah, writers' rooms are super helpful for that, for sure.
Oh man, that's awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
A follow-up question was somebody asked, how was it working with Nate on the writing team and coming up with ideas and the fun episodes and stuff like that? Was it a good time?
Oh, it was so much fun. I love every writers' room I've been a part of, but there's something really special about Shira for sure. And Nate and I are still good friends to this day. So much of it wasn't just the writers' room. There'd be like days where we'd be like, we can't really break this story, and we'd like walk down the street to like Acapulco and get like margaritas together, and then like half an hour later, we're like, okay, we've got it. But yeah, working with Nate was fantastic. He put so much faith in me and my writing, and he just had such a great, incredible vision for the show. It was an absolute privilege to work with him for sure.
That's awesome. I remember I was watching a lot of like the early interviews in between new seasons and stuff and just hearing, the ideas, and it just seemed so creative. And then to take something that was OG. You know, it was an 80s
Mm-hmm.
show originally and had a fan base already, but then to kind of just have this modern twist and
Yeah.
this modern creativity, I thought it was genius. So that's awesome. I can only imagine how much fun it was working
Oh
on
yeah,
it.
no, it was great. We had a great group of writers. Period. You know,
Yeah.
every single writer in that room was fantastic. We're all still friends. Like we're literally going to go get drinks like next week. Like
Nice.
they're the greatest group of people you could possibly ever meet. So
Wow.
it was a
That's
lot of
awesome.
fun.
You guys pulled off an amazing show. I have to just be very honest. I watch a lot of animation shows. So, you know, to see a show that literally was great to start with, but got even better every
Thank you.
freaking season, just amazing job. It blew my mind, and I know it blew the minds of all the other fans. Like it was very, very well done. So just
Thank you.
kudos for me, and I'm sure all the other fans. Just a little side kudo. That's awesome. Let's get one of the fan questions. And so, per Sassy Jackson would like to know which character do you feel the most connected to slash relate to the most?
Oh, well, first, great name for Sassy Jackson.
Per
I like
Sassy
this.
Jackson.
I would say I think there's two characters that I feel the most sort of connected with, and I think I did a lot with. And one is just Adora. Like I think Adora is so much an amalgamation of all of our personalities from the room. But absolutely, I remember talking to Nate and Jen, one of our directors, about being like that, like feeling of like guilt and like that, like feeling of like, okay, I need to prove myself is
Yeah.
something that anxiety is so relatable
Mm,
for us specifically. So
yep.
writing every scene where Adora is freaking out a little bit or like hyperventilating, like that was just pulled from real life.
I love that.
And then I think the other character that I actually ended up doing a lot of writing with and I really love is Entrapta, because
Yay.
yeah, I absolutely love her. Like I love her worldview of just
Mm,
like, you know, experiments. Nothing's a failure. Everything is part of like life.
yep.
And it was really fun writing her too, because you know, there's a lot. She gets to do a lot of stuff with Hordak, who was fun to develop away from just a very two-dimensional bad guy
Mm,
and into this much more complicated figure
yeah.
that you got to see through in Trapta. Like you got to
Yes.
see the two of them become more real, I think, than
Yeah.
like, you know, the original 80s show or like, you know, what we started with in season one.
Yeah.
So I would say those two. But yeah,
Wow.
definitely pulled a lot of anxiety out of my heart and put it on the page for Adora.
Personal anxiety. That was actually therapy to transfer it to Adora. Be like, this is yours now. Thank you.
We actually like had like Nate made that like butterfly meme. Like we made one for the writers room where it was just like scripts and then us being like, is this therapy? Like
Literally.
literally.
That is amazing. I swear that I feel like that just totally relates to everybody because everybody who watches these kinds of shows is like, yes, this is our therapy. Let us enjoy this.
Yes, exactly.
It's interesting that you wrote a lot for Entrapta. Fun fact: my mom, her favorite character was Entrapta.
Really?
Yeah, I got her to watch the show with me. She loved it, and Entrapta was her favorite. She said because Entrapta reminded her of me. Because when I get into my stuff, I have ADHD, and I you know deal
Mhm.
with my hyperfixations, and when I
Mhm.
talk about shows and movies. I can't stop talking and I get really excited and I'm just like constantly with all these projects. So for her, she just had this love for Entrapta as a character. So I'll have to let her know that you were actually the one behind a lot of Entrapta. That's awesome.
Amazing. Yeah.
That is so cool. And I think that was a really good point you made. The relationship and friendship that she developed with Hordak definitely gave the audience such another side to him that we
Mhm.
just didn't see. So that's really cool. Was that initially the plan to do that with Hordak, or is that something that kind of came further along?
It was something that sort of it was pretty early on, but it was coming further along. I mean, I
Mm,
think especially season one, we were much more interested in sort of setting up all the princesses and their
right.
interpersonal dynamics and really setting up this sort of like Adora and Catra torn apart on opposite sides.
No.
But like sort of season two onwards, we knew we wanted to do more with Hordak and the members of the Horde than just their stock characters.
Gotcha.
And so I think that's when we really got into him. We really did a lot more with Scorpia too, who I love. Like we did a lot more with like, we even like gave like backstory stuff to like Kyle and like like everybody. So I think season 2 onwards, we're like, we want to have the Horde be equal billing to the good guys. So let's dive in and explore them as 3-dimensional characters a lot more.
I'm glad that you guys thought of that. You know, it's like it was nice to see both sides, and it also kind of helped to understand more of the Horde's point of view. Yeah, so thanks. That was really cool. This was actually asked by multiple people. How did you join the She-Ra team?
So I knew Nate because before I worked in animation, I worked as a entertainment journalist, specifically reporting on comic books. So I had met Nate, I'd known Nate from the internet a little bit because he had been following my husband on Tumblr. And then I had known him from interviewing him actually about his projects. Yeah. Like we realized like very quickly, I'm working on She-Ra. I was like, I think I was one of the first reporters to like ever do a big interview with him for like CBR, which was what I was working for. So we kind of knew each other from that. And then when Nate moved out to Los Angeles, we had a lot of friends in common. We started hanging out. So then when Nate was pitching She-Ra, he convened a room of a bunch of writers he knew to like help him come up with ideas for characters and like episodes and stuff to get the green light from Netflix. So I was a part of that room. And then for like 3 months as they were making the decision, every time I saw Nate, I'd be like, okay, I can't ask right now if the show is happening. So I have to like, we'll talk a little bit and then I'll ask. But yeah, once it was like, okay, cool. We're going to have a drink. We're going to spend 20 minutes and then I'll ask how's the show going? Yeah. But yes, once Netflix gave the official green light to DreamWorks, Nate called me up and was like, do you want to be one of the writers? And I was like, absolutely, 100%. And yeah, it's fantastic.
Wow, that's gotta be really cool to be able to work on a project with your friends. Like,
yes,
it has to be the best.
Especially She-Ra, we became all so close. Even the people we didn't know before have now become some of my best friends. And some of the people I bring with me, like some of the writers from She-Ra, I brought with me to Jurassic and Superman. Some of the directors from She-Ra are now directing on Superman. It's become like a really tight-knit group, which has been very lovely.
Well, I gotta say, it definitely comes across. Like, you can... Like you said, She-Ra really is a special show, and you can feel it. You feel the love that you guys put into it, the hard work. So it definitely translated. Like, let me tell you, as a viewer, it definitely came through, and it was very impactful, not only for me, but I know for so many people. So you guys were just a brilliant team, and man, if you guys could all work together again on a future project, what a powerhouse!
Oh boy, yeah, we would love to, but yeah, I think maybe one day, we'll cross our fingers one day.
Yeah, definitely let us know if that happens, man. Powerhouse for sure. I guess you kind of answered this already, but maybe we can go a little further with more character dynamics. So Panda Sam wanted to know, who was one of your favorite characters / character dynamics to write for? So you kind of gave the characters, but maybe discuss maybe some of the dynamics you liked to write.
Yeah, I think some of my favorite dynamics were the more strained relationships. I think me and everyone really enjoyed writing Shadow Weaver especially with Catra. There's so much drama and trauma in every line. And we had the incredible actress Lorraine Toussaint who would come in, and like she's like classically trained. So we'd do a scene and then she'd be like, wait, there's more to it here. Give me 1 second. And then she'd do it again, and like there'd be so much like fear in her voice, or like so much drama, or we'd all get chills and be like, oh my god. Like she was the one who pitched like her last line being like, thank you, you're welcome,
yes,
you're welcome. So yeah, absolutely writing, especially Shadow Weaver and Catra, who have such a fraught relationship, was one of my favorites. And then sort of on the flip side, Scorpia and Catra is one of my favorite dynamics. We love them so much, and we also loved how much Scorpia got to grow past Catra in further seasons that they had this connection, and then, part of the show was, growth was people healing from the traumatic relationships they had. Yeah, moving forward.
There's just so much trauma. Everyone's experiencing trauma. It was just like so much, and it's like, oh, please let us heal.
And then we do a D&D episode, and we have some laughs.
I loved that you guys did that to give Scorpia and the other characters kind of more of their own growth as well. And also the Scorpia ending with Perfuma, that was adorable. I love how like nobody saw it coming, and it was the cutest ship ever. And we were like, why did we not see this? Why were we just sitting on this? And, oh my gosh, I have to say, like, all the art and all the fan fiction that came after, like, it just blossomed, pun intended. Bloomed, and it was really cute to see their growth and stuff. And I think it was really cool how Perfuma was kind of like therapist to a lot of the characters.
Yes. Yeah, Perfuma is like maybe one of the only characters who like mostly had her head screwed on right. Like she would fight with Mermista. Like Mermista was her like downfall of just being like, we're competitive, but everyone else, she's like, we could just talk things out. We can just calm down.
Yeah, especially that little moment. It was so simple with Catra, hinting at the affection towards and the care she actually had for Adora, that Perfuma could see it. It's like Perfuma was catching on. She's like, you can maybe fool everybody else. She's like, but I see you, Catra. I see you.
Yeah.
Not sure how to pronounce it because the N and the D are capital, but the J and the E were regular. So I'm just gonna say Jend.
Cool.
Jen wanted to know, did the writers have any ideas about Catra's backstory?
So I know, I'm laughing. So the joke in the writer's room was that they just found her as a kitten in a box by the side of the road. We talked a little bit about like, should we do more with Catra's backstory? Like there was in the very old 80s show, there was a group of magical cat people literally called the Magic Cats. And every now and then we were like, should we do something with that? And I think we settled on what was the important relationships in Catra's life and what were the important points of growth. And it was all in the Horde. So, she was, as people saw, like she came in as like almost a baby. Like she was so young when she was brought in that we felt like it mattered more her life with Shadow Weaver and Adora and the other Horde members. Like that's really what formed Catra as Catra. And then, there's also the practical, we only have 52 episodes. So, let's focus on the stuff that like emotionally resonates, especially with Adora and Catra. But, if we had more episodes, there definitely would have been maybe some Magic Cats.
Right. I think that was the follow-up too, was like, was she a Magic Cat?
We never really specified or said what she was. We're just like, she's a cat person. We're going to move forward. What the important thing is she doesn't get along with Shadow Weaver and she loves Adora.
Yes. Okay, so our friend Jenna wanted to know, what are you working on these days?
So we went over it a little bit, but yeah, it's I said yes to too many things during the pandemic, so they're all coming out next year. So working on My Adventures with Superman, which is coming out next year in 2023. I think there'll be an announcement, I think, in the new year about when exactly it'll be on Cartoon Network. Okay. I've got a couple of more, like I said, the backup issues for this cool Revenge of the Gods this little series that just got announced. I also have coming out a Supergirl animated movie that's going to be on HBO Max and DVD and Blu-ray. That's fun. That's Supergirl meets this superhero group called the Legion of Superheroes. And there's also romance and punching in that. So I really hit the same things over and over.
And tights and superness.
Tights and superness and some kissing, some blushing. So
punching and kicking and
yeah. But yeah, right now my world is a lot of superheroes, and then everything comes out next year.
I love that. This is gonna be the last question, and it was because it was asked so many times.
All right.
Yeah, not one specific person. So if there's anything you could possibly say, is there even a possibility more She-Ra. In any form, whether it's shows, comics, movies, has there even been talks or anything you could share, if you can, without the DreamWorks police showing up at the window or anything?
We made the show we set out to make. We were really happy because we always knew that we had 52 episodes and that was kind of going to be it. For our version, at least, we were really happy to be able to build to the end point that we got to go to. I know, while the show's coming out, they publish some graphic novels and things.
Right.
It'd be lovely if there was more. I've not heard anything. I don't think that that's going to happen. So I would say keep rewatching on Netflix.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I'm crushing the hearts of fans everywhere. We're glad that we got to make the show that we set out to make, and that it's resonated with so many people. And that's, I think, the biggest thing for us. And for me personally, it's the biggest thing for me is that how much people love those 5 seasons we got to make. So
I thought they were gorgeous. I agree. I think the story you guys told was fantastic. I like that it ended with some completion, but there is always that window because you never know, right? So I think I think you guys ended it perfectly. I guess just follow up for my own question for you. If there is a possibility to do more She-Ra, would you be down to join the team again?
If Nate called me up and said, would you want to do more? I think all of us would say yes. Again, She-Ra is not owned by us. It's not owned by Nate. It's, like we said, it's an 80s property that is owned by Mattel and DreamWorks and Sony. Those are the 3 shareholders.
Gotcha.
So they're the ones who sort of get to decide what happens next in the Masters of the Universe section of the world. So
fair enough. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed and keep rewatching. I see, for me, I love the whole show, but I gotta say season 5 is, I think I've rewatched season 5 more than I have the entire show.
Amazing.
It just had its impact. So thank you for answering those questions. And now we get to get into some of your favorite scenes.
Yes.
You did previously write to me which scenes you would like to discuss and which ones are some of your favorite. Ironically, there are a lot of my favorites as well. So it makes sense. So let me make sure I could do this right and share my screen accordingly.
Exciting. Okay.
Yes, this is a learning experience for all of us.
I don't know about you, but I am having a blast. Whatever it is you're planning, it won't work. You sure? Maybe my plan won't work, but then again, maybe it already has.
Oh, there it is.
Yes.
What a scene. Break that down, Josie. Why is it your favorite? Did you have parts in writing it? Break it down.
Yeah. So I wrote the Princess Prom episode. So there's 2 reasons I really like this episode and this scene. And one is, I'm biased because I wrote it. And this was actually the idea for Princess Prom was when Nate had all the way back at that first writer's room when we were trying to get the green light for it. Mm-hmm. And even then I was just I wrote it down in my notes. I'm write this episode. If I get on the show, claim Princess Prom, because I was this is so fun. It's a turning point for the entire first season. There's a lot of juicy character stuff going on with not just Adore and Catra, but Bo and Glimmer. And then the second reason I like this is I had written that they were doing a dance as they're getting this sort of information out and we're dancing and that Catra gets real close. But I feel this is really what the show was like, that everybody just plus things, because the storyboard artist who did the sequences named Mickey Quinn, and she was I'd call dibs on the sequence. I have an idea. And so then we go into what's called rough board pitch, where board artists show us the first draft basically of their boards. And Mickey's got some basically sort of roughed out characters of this is the dance, this is dance. And then she's and then here's the dip. And she hits the key for the next part. And it's literally, Elijah, it's literally the picture that you just saw. She had, it's colored in, it was shaded perfectly. It was drawn within an inch of its life. Everything else was stick figures. And then we had this one and she's and I know what the colors are and I know how the lighting's going to work. And we're yeah. But yeah, it was just it's getting out that sexual tension. It was all of us screamed and went, woo! then literally, like, we took that picture she drew from the storyboard and we sent that to Korea when we sent it off to get animated. We're like this, please.
This right here.
So, yeah, so when you see it, that's Mickey. That's Mickey's drawing that she was like, this is how this part of the dance goes. And I'm like, yes, I agree.
I love how all the detail just went into that one dip.
Yes.
It was like, fuck the rest. We don't need the details for the rest.
Yeah, there was like little like arrows pointing which way they would go, and then perfect lines drawn in, everything.
Highlights, shadows, a little sparkle.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Well, it definitely came across. I tell you, I remember I was watching it as it was airing, so I was there for all of it. The internet broke that day. Like, I swear, all you saw was screenshots and moments and GIFs and all that of just the dip.
Yes.
All you have to say is the dip, and if you're in the She-Ra fandom, it's the dip. But also, I just want to just compliment you then on also the lines you chose for like Catra and Adore, like the tension. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, I know that one was a lot of fun, and that was another one too where it's like, especially that fight on the roof that comes later. Like Jet, because like I had written, that like, Catra almost falls off and all that sequence, but Jen was the one, Jen, who was our director on the episode, was the one who was like, we basically need to do essentially a second, like catching them and then they're into each other's face right before it all falls apart. It's mirroring the dip, but in the saddest way possible. And we're like, yeah, absolutely. So, it's just that it was just such a fun episode.
You're just naming like all the moments that just hit me the most. Like, you guys knew. You guys so knew. Oh,
like when you get a whole crew of gay women together, gay women and men, we're like, okay, and this is where it's gonna get spicy.
Yes, it's bound to happen. The spice is bound to just pour out, I swear.
Yeah.
No, I'm so happy you mentioned that. I was actually gonna bring that up. That moment when she catches her falling off the cliff, and it's like where she's gritting her teeth at first, and even with the music, like the music also had such a good compliment to what you guys wrote and what you guys depicted. It just made the moments so impactful, and like Adora softens her face, like this is still the woman that you don't know that you love yet, but you definitely so much care for. You grew up with her and you're fighting her, and it's just like, oh, that came across in just that short moment, man. Oh, chef's kiss. Oh. I feel like all the Cachador moments were just like chef's kiss, I swear.
Oh, they're so fun.
All right, cool. I don't want to get too caught up on the dip. All right, so let's go into the next one. Your other scenes that you really liked was the Roll With It episode from season 1, where it's basically everyone's plans and their ideas of how things should go. And you mentioned that you actually based a lot of that off of Nate's real life D&D experiences.
Yes.
So please tell us a little bit about that, because those sequences were just absolutely hilarious.
So we knew that we wanted to do something with D&D because like I'd been playing D&D, Nate had been playing D&D. We were actually the only two in the writers' room. So it's so funny. Laura Strebny, who's one of the writers, like showed me later, had done a drawing of, because she also draws, of just the room and all the writers like kind of like looking at each other as me and Nate are like, I think Chess X dice are actually the best dice to use. But yeah, so I wrote the Roll With It episode, and Nate's talked about this before, but like, at the time Nate was playing a D&D campaign where he was a tiefling who jumped into things and like used like Misty Step and portaled into places before thinking about it. And so like that was like the first thing we're talking about is like, what if Glimmer was basically Nate and is just like, I'm very cool, I'm going to portal here, I'm going to portal here, I'm going to transport here, I'm going to transport there, and then not think through any of it.
That feels very Glimmer.
yeah. And so from there, like we started talking about like the game he was playing, the game I was playing. We brought in our books, our D&D books. So a lot of the episode is based on like his character and the campaign he was playing. And then there's a little bit here and there, again, mainly Glimmer of like, I had from my other friends, like when I was playing a game with my friend Ariel at the time, who was a rogue, but like, she was like, every time she rolled, she wouldn't just walk somewhere. She's like, okay, I flip forward, I flip backwards, I do a double roll, I hang off the side. So like, that's like also part of the Glimmer, and everybody being like, okay, so this is what I'm going to do. It's going to look this cool. It's going to be this great.
Oh my gosh. And Glimmers was like, oh my God, it was like very noir, and like, it had like the whole, like the sassy, and it was, oh my God, and Catra's purring. I can't, like, the
So we loved, because in that episode we also have obviously the homage to the original 80s show.
Yeah.
And if anybody has ever seen the original 80s show, original 80s Catra purrs and meows, like it's actually an incredible performance, because it's like you watch her laugh into a meow, back into a laugh, or like a word goes into a purr, goes into a word. And so, like, we played it for the Catra actress AJ, and
Yes.
she like had a fit of the giggles, and like it took us 2 turns for us to be like, okay, but like meow into this, and she'd be like,
perfect plan. Like, it was
yes.
I won't let you destroy my perfect plan.
What?
She truly sounded like the original Catra. It was wild.
Oh man, AJ's great, by the way. Like,
she's so fantastic.
I love that she actually like didn't change her voice for Catra, so now
No.
anytime she speaks, I'm just like, Catra, like, I miss you. Or anytime she sings, I'm like, yes, Catra's a singer. Oh, and her cover of We Must Be Strong.
Yeah, it was so good.
And did with the classic Hey Adora, which by the way, did you guys plan that to be such a catchphrase? Catchphrase.
I like that. So we put it in every script, and we're like, yeah, this is what Catra says, but like AJ brought it to life. Like it's like every flavor of Hey Adora is a good flavor, you know?
Oh my God, yes. Oh yes. There's so many renditions.
Yes. It's like teasing, it's a little sexy, it's a little like raw, like just yeah, absolutely.
Scary. The Portal one.
Hey, Adora.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like a little like robotic. Oh my God, I don't even want to mimic it because it just like freaks me out.
Yeah.
The next scene is from Reunion.
Meet my dads.
Oh, God.
Dora, Glimmer. Oh, we're so happy to finally meet both school friends.
So we knew we wanted to do a little bit more with Bo's backstory and where he came from, because like we didn't want him to just be like, here's the boy we found in the woods and now he's part of the resistance. And so we talked about like, you know, Nate comes from a really big family, and he's like a younger middle kid, and he's like, you know, like when you have a big family, like it's okay if you disappear for a little bit. So we came up with this idea of like, okay, Bo's got his dads, he's got his like 13 siblings that you don't meet, because we couldn't design them all in time, but we really wanted to have Bo's dads be this kind of like really loving like force in his life, because Bo is so loving. Bo is so kind. He's always trying to play the peacemaker. He's always trying to like bring everybody together. So we wanted to see where Bo came from. And we also really liked the idea of, you know, like we had seen Natasha and Spinnerella a little bit, but introducing more gay couples into this world, and like very specifically have this like very loving, you know, these 2 gay dads. They're very loving. They're very accepting, but like they, you know, Bo still has tension with them. He still thinks that they want him to do a life that he doesn't want to lead. There's still the tension with the fact that they don't really like princesses. And I think the biggest thing that was really fun writing it was finding all the ways that Bo's dads had similar like personality traits to Bo, and like where he got from each one. So you had, you know, Lance and George, and like you had, you know, like the bubbly one who's like making puppy dog eyes, and like you're like, okay, that's where Sparkles, that's where Bo gets it from. And but then like there's serious Bo, and you know, you've got his father staring into the fire being like, my whole village was burned down. And so it was just really fun, and it was really great to have them be, you know, like such like they became such like fan favorites immediately too. Like they were our favorite, and you know, we brought them back a little bit in the very last season. But it was just the first draft I turned in was like 4 pages too long, because I had every single one of those pages was pun dad jokes that they were making, and then just more information, like him hugging Bo, them feeding Bo. Like it was just like so much fun to wrate that family and write that dynamic.
It makes sense that you went over though, because you have the pun dad jokes twice as much. So you have to make extra jokes.
Yes. So yeah, I had so many dad jokes that did not make the final cut because they're like, we only have 22 minutes.
Oh, if only it would have been a 44-minute episode.
If only it was a special 44. Yeah.
Just for the puns.
Just for the puns. Yeah, exactly.
That's great. They became a favorite of mine. I have to say, thanks for you guys, bringing in just to add on to the whole having more queer couples and more LGBTQIA representation. This was a big turning point for animation, and all the characters you guys included. We had a non-binary character, Double Trouble. We had a couple of color, a gay couple of color. We had an interracial sapphic couple because I guess Katra is Magic Cat or whatever she is, and then Adora is First Ones, and then you still had the hetero couples with Glimmer and Bo, and then you still had even more sapphic couples with Scorpia and Perfuma, and it was just all such a beautiful blend. Oh, and oh my God, how can I forget Spinnerella and Natasa? Like I and I know everybody else loved how normal it was and how it just was. Like it didn't surround, it wasn't like a big deal. It was just everyone was loving who they wanted to love. So I just have to say thank you as one of the writers for doing that, for the representation. And I guess just my own question, how does it feel, being able to just have all these characters and see the impact that it had?
Yeah, I mean, it feels incredible. I mean, so much of this is, I grew up in the 90s. Like a lot of people grew up like even earlier in the 80s. Like there just wasn't like gay representation in kid stuff. There just wasn't. The closest we got was, the like censored out Cousins and Sailor Moon, But like when it came over and I'm like, they don't really act like cousins. And then years later, I'd find out, no, they're obviously a gay couple. Of course. All this time. That makes a lot more sense. So it felt really important. I mean, it felt very important because we were also making this, like we started the show in 2016. We also, like you said, there was such a turning point, I think around like 2016 to 2018, especially in animation where, we saw like, the bubbling, like, Princess Bubblegum and Marceline kiss. You saw like, Doc McStuffins had 2 gay moms on like an episode. Like there was, Rebecca Sugar was doing amazing stuff with Steven Universe. So there was sort of a groundswell that it felt like we were finally able to break through sort of the old guard who was like, no gay romance, please. And be like, no, it's part of the experience of kids nowadays. It's part of the experience as teenagers. It's part of our experience. And like you said, making it just part of the world. Like this is the fabric of the world. It's about love and friendship in every single form you can possibly think of.
I love it. Oh, so good. All that hard work and all the pushing you guys did to get that representation, it really did mean a lot. Like just I can't represent the millions of fans, but for the ones that do agree with me, man, it was great. And just serious thank you, because I grew up in the 90s as well. I didn't even realize I was gay until I was 18 and I kissed a girl for the first time. It's like, oh, what are all these feelings that I was supposed to feel with boys, but I didn't? So to be able to, find shows like this that I didn't have, because I always thought maybe if I did have a show like this, maybe I would have figured it out sooner, because there was a lot in my childhood that when I think back on now made a lot of sense. But I just didn't know that because it just wasn't in my world. So, being able to normalize it more now and having more content like this, I think is just absolutely great. And I'm excited for the youth and the younger generations that they get to grow up with shows like this, So,
absolutely.
That's cool.
I mean, we grew up in a world where, it had only been legal to be married and be gay for like a couple of years before a show even got started. So there's been a lot of change. It's been a lot of change in life. And I'm so happy that it's all been, especially with younger kids coming out and feeling like they belong in this world, that like everything is, that you can just be yourself and be who you are. That's so important.
Well, some people have a bad day. I've had a bad life. If I want something, it's taken from me. If I win a fight, I lose the war. Threats only work on someone who has something to lose. But me? I've already lost it all.
That is such an intense monologue. Oh, so good.
So, I mean, at this point in not just the season, but the show, Kadra has been through so much. And like this was such a fun episode to write because it was like there was like two things we were doing with Katro, and one was she was done with it all. Like she was done with the Horde. She was kind of done with Adora at this point. Like she was done with the ideas of the war or the rebellion. Like everything had just collapsed on her. So it was really fun to like let Katra like be her most Katra, where she's like, I don't care about any of you. I don't care about any of this. Like, what stakes are left for me? And I think the second part of that was very fun is like as you see in the episode, it's very freeing. Like when you stop caring what others think is when you are the most free to do whatever you want. Oh, yeah. And so this is the episode that like speech sets off like Katra's like growth this episode where she's like, everything is bad, so I'm going to do what I want. And then in that, like she's having fun with Scorpia. She's kind of like for the first time seeing each other as equals. Like, and you know, by the end of the episode, you've got that look of like, you could just leave it all behind and be happy. You could make the choice to grow positively.
Yep.
But then Adora comes back in and then she tells you that Shadow Weaver is on Adora's side and it all comes crashing back down.
I mean, that was like two triggers. Like you got Adora as a trigger and then Shadow Weaver, it's like just double the triggers.
Yes. Like there's definitely, so writing that speech, that was one where we knew like in the outline, so when writers and TV come together to come up with a story, we call it breaking. So we spent a day in the room breaking the story where we're like, okay, this is sort of like the plot pieces where things go. And we know that like Katra is going to like distract the goons and like sort of like give a little speech about like how she's kind of over all of this. And then I took this script. It was my script. And I was just like, Nate will pull me back if it's too much. Let's go. And I do think,
hold my earrings. I got this.
pretty much. And then, so I wrote that up of just being like, here it is, like Katra funneling all of that angst into this one moment that like also ends with her being badass. Yes. Like her life is bad, but she's still coming out on top somehow. So that was truly one of my favorite speeches in the show. Absolutely.
Oh, it's great. I mean, it's Katra taking her power back, so to speak, you know, because like she says, I've already lost it all. You know, you can't take shit from me. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I, as a viewer, I definitely felt like it was the start of a very serious turning point in Katra's story. Yeah. Was it your idea to have her steal the jacket after?
So that was Nate really loved the idea of the jacket because like we were because like there's a couple of points where like the artist would come to us with like ideas for things like we love Katra's like fingerless gloves for prom, but yeah, because like I think I pitched it's like, oh yeah, and then like, you know, she like throws Scorpia a leather jacket and it was like she should have a matching leather jacket.
That's
and
great.
we're like, yes, we'll have matching leather jackets in the waist.
It makes sense, and the whip
makes sense.
Like it just totally fit the waist.
Yes, absolutely. It was very, we talked a lot about Furiosa. Like it was very, very Mad Max.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That definitely came across. Oh my gosh, yes.
I've always been the queen who stays behind. I was just scared. You inspired me because you never let fear stop you. I choose to be brave.
It's just as fresh. Please tell us about that.
So this was another one where we had, like, I had so much fun writing this episode. It was like a lot of storylines coming to an end or like kicking off, you know, like you've got like a different dynamic going forward with like a lot of people. Glimmer's going to be queen. And we always knew that we were going to have Angela sacrifice herself, sort of like, and that Glimmer was going to take over.
You guys knew?
Yeah, cool. And we wanted to, like, you know, we wanted to have that feel. We wanted it to feel real. Like, we didn't want it to be something that's like wave your hand and undo it, because, you know, like Nate was the one who pointed out, like, then it feels like it's cheap, and you want that moment to really hit. But like, that was another one where, like, in the breaking room, like, we were like, okay, so okay, this is how Angela sacrifices herself, and so she's going to see that Adora is going to sacrifice herself, and she takes the sword instead. And that was all we had in the outline. And then while I was writing it, we got to that scene, and I'm like, no, this, you know, my reaction was like, oh wait, this is Angela's last moment, and it's finally her time for her to explain herself and to tell people her side of things. Because, you know, for so much of the first half of the series, she's a little bit of the mom who's like, do not do this, Glimmer. Like, she cares about her daughter. She doesn't want her to die like she thinks Micah did. But like, this is I was like, this is her moment. This is her time to finally say everything that's ever been in her heart. And what's in her heart was, like, you know, she's still got that guilt there. She's still got the, like, I wasn't brave before. And, you know, my favorite line that I wrote in that, like, I this was one that I actually wrote like a longer scene for, and there's a lot more dialogue that we like realized, no, we just dial it down to the most important parts. And it was all the stuff leading up to I choose to be brave. And because that's really Angela in a nutshell, is that she had this regret. She loves her daughter. She believes in Adora, who she didn't at the very start of this. And that for the first time in her life, and the last time in her life, she's going to choose to do what Glimmer does every day. She's going to choose to throw herself in and be brave. Wow. And then, you know, that her last words are like such my mom words, but also such kind words of like, take care of each other.
Take care of each other.
So yeah, and it's funny because I wrote that and I turned in first draft, and like, you know, as a writer, like you live in your own head. So I'm like, I don't know if this is all working. And so I sent a copy first to Shane Lynch, who was at that time our writer's assistant. And I was like, hey, Shane, can you give me like feedback on this? I'm not totally sure if I'm hitting the emotions. And then like 10 minutes later, she comes in and she tears on her face and just punches me in the arm. And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, oh, I wasn't sure. She's like, she had your reaction. She was like, she was so upset and crying and kept hitting me. She's like, of course it works, Josie. I'm like, okay, I'll send it into Nate now.
Yes, you definitely captured the emotion, man. Oh man, that was so good.
What are you looking for? Sugar for the pie. Come, dearie, not a moment to waste. Let's go.
Apparently, we're making pie.
She was brave, my Mara. For you, Mara dearie.
And then the white screen. Oh, and then it just turned. Oh, in the message, I forget. Did you say you collaborated with Nate on that one?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So we knew we wanted to do an episode where, because we had like, you know, the whole mythology sort of charted out over the course of the show, and we knew that we really wanted it to hit hard that like Etheria is a weapon, and also that Mara specifically, you know, like Adora's sort of been set up to believe by like Light Hope that Mara wasn't a hero, and it's like no, she was, just in a greater way than you could have ever imagined. Like she saw the destruction that would happen and stopped it. And this was another one where at this point the directors would like call it like, you know, like our special on She-Ra, where like you start with laughs and then you end with tears. Literally. So yes, and this one was like really a really hard one to crack, because we knew we wanted to sort of flash back and forth between Mara and Adora, and we wanted to have those emotional responses. But like we went through a couple of different like versions of like, how does the flashing back and forth work? How are we seeing it? Catherine Nolfi, who's one of the writers, like had this theory the whole time. She's like, actually, like Mara can see, or Madame Raz can see all time, all at once. So she's just hopping back and forth, and we're like, oh, that's cool. Let's play with that. So yeah, so that was a very much one where Nate and I collaborated, very much one where Nate and I went down the street and got margaritas, and we're like, okay, so this is how the logic of the flashing back and forth works. But like it felt like it all came together. Like originally the pie was just kind of like a joke of just like, oh, no reason to go on this trip. But like we realized like, oh no, they're making the pie for Mara. Like she's been gathering this back and forth this whole time to honor Mara and her sacrifice, to bring Adora to where she needs to be. The pie's for Mara. It's not a funny throwaway. It's the saddest thing that you've ever seen. And so, yeah, so when we finally cracked that and we sent out that last sort of draft to everybody, like, again, that was another one where we had like the board artists coming in and being like, how dare you? Yeah. This is emotional terrorism. How dare you make the pie sad? How dare you?
How dare you rip every single heartstring I had?
Yeah. And this was also fun because the Mara actress, Zara Fazil, I met her actually years ago when I was a teenager because we realized when she came in to read for Mara and I was there for that record that she had been doing theater in DC with my old like high school drama teacher.
No
so
way.
I had actually in high school I had seen her in plays that he had been directing and we realized we're like, you know Andrew? I know Andrew. So yeah, so it was a lot of fun. She's so good as Mara and everything. She's fantastic.
Okay, and now I saved this scene for last because
Great.
It was crazy that you told me it was your favorite from Heart One because I got to just tell you. I mean, I told you a little bit in the email, but just in kind of camera person. When I first watched this scene in particular, this line, that had one of the most impactful moments for me in my entire life. And it's literally my favorite scene right next to the final kiss. Like it's that powerful for me, and I know for so many people. So I'm gonna play it. I'm sure some of you guys can already guess, but we'll talk about it more in a second. We gotta play it.
Dora chose Shadow Weaver, okay? Not me! Dora doesn't want me! Not like I want her.
Good! I'm telling you, dude, it's that, because we've all been there. You know what? I'm not gonna talk, you talk. Tell us about it, please.
Oh man, so yeah, so this was, man, there's a lot of feelings going into it, because this was the last script I ever wrote for She-Ra, because it's, you know, part one of the finale of the entire show. So there's a lot of feelings going into it. Also, by that point, animation, when you get to sort of the end of it, like people just sort of like are termed off onto other projects a lot of times. So it was like a lot of the writers were gone. It was kind of me, Nate, and Catherine. And then I had even started doing stuff on Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous, which was the next show I was head writer for. So when I was writing this, it was both important to us because it was so emotional, because it's like, here's the end of our journey. This is everything we've been working up to. It was emotional because it was also like, it's explicit. It's about, the end is about love. It's about gay love. It's about Catra loving Adora. And like that line was the line that like made, like, you know, like as queer people, I'm like, oh, obviously Catra's in love with Adora and Adora's in love with Catra. Like there's no reason they would do any of this if they were just friends.
Literally.
But like, you know, like there
would be a show.
Yeah. I'm like, we're just good pals. That's not like but like, you know, this was the time to say it fully and be like, Catra loves her. Catra romantically loves her. And, you know, also it was so impactful for me because like, She-Ra was the show that I finally was comfortable coming out of the closet on, because I'm bisexual. But like I had been in the closet for years, and you know, so it was, you know, being around so many other people who are so open and being able to talk to people and explore these ideas finally let me at like 30 years old finally come out. And so that Catra line, now I'm tearing up. That Catra line meant a lot to me, and it meant it was just like, you know, when we turned in those scripts where like we wrote the finale to be like, it's about love. We wrote it in a way that you can't take it out. And we wrote it to be explicit. So, you know, when we turned in the last two scripts, we're like, this is what it's about. It has to end with them. It has to end with this kiss. It has to end with them confirming that they love each other.
I'm crying with you.
I know, right? And then, you know, like Nate again went above and beyond, like did like a big, like, you know, pitch to Mattel, to DreamWorks, to every single stakeholder, be like, this is how the show ends. And everybody was like, absolutely. Yes, we agree. We absolutely agree. So yeah, not like I want her line was,
like,
and then, you know,
saying it.
Well, and it's also, God, it's, it's that feeling. It's like, for me, it's the culmination of everything we were working for. It was me dealing with my own, my own identity. It was also that, that it's just, it sucks when you love someone and there's no way they're going to love you back. And you're just like, if only she wanted me the same way I wanted her.
God.
Yeah.
I can't keep the sounds inside. That's how, like, everything you're saying, it came across, man. Like, you put it in there, and let me tell you, it translated. For me personally, I had never seen a show, especially an animation show that's targeted for kids and stuff like that. Even though the majority of the fandom is like grown adults. Because we didn't have this growing up. And I feel like that's why so many adults, especially our age and from the 90s and early 2000s, we didn't get to have that. So now we get to enjoy it. Anyway, side note, I'm rambling. I had never heard that. I had never had that acknowledged. And meanwhile, in my own personal life, this is going to be a little bit into my life. I, was that sapphic person who fell for the best friend, and, that was not reciprocated. So that was a traumatic, heartbreaking experience for me that lasted a couple years. So when I saw that, when I heard that, I'm going to cry again. When I heard that line, dude, I was like, I flipped. And like, my mom tried to stay up with me to watch the season 5. She fell asleep around episode 5. But so she was asleep. My dad was asleep. I couldn't scream like I wanted to. That shit hit so hard. So just all I can say is thank you. Just from the bottom of this rainbow heart. Thank you for writing that. Thank you for all the representation you guys put into it. You and Nate, if you get a chance to tell Nate, be like, look, man, there's this curly-haired chick on YouTube yelling at this one line and all the stuff we did. If I can represent everybody who felt the same, just an immense thank you for that line and for everything else. But that line meant a lot, and it was huge. It was huge. I flipped.
No, that's it's so good to hear. I mean, like you said, a lot, I'd like a lot of the fandom, you do have kids, you've got teenagers, but a lot of fandom is older people. And we've had people come up to us at, like, we did like PowerCon a couple of years back before the pandemic, and we had people come up and being like, yeah, same as you. It's just like, I was gay, there was nothing for me on TV, and now this feels like I can like live this. And God, I am always in such awe of Nate, because not only is he such a good writer and so smart, and so, like, from day one he's like, this is a gay story, this is gay love, this is gay show, like, never, like, he was such an incredible leader for all of us. He was such an like, it was so inspiring to watch him push all of this forward. Like, so much of this could not have been possible if it had been, like, the show wouldn't exist if it had been anyone else. But like, everything that we did on it, every single, bit of like sapphic love, every bit of romance, gay romance, everything was because Nate had this amazing vision for a more inclusive show and a more inclusive writer's room and a more inclusive world. And we got to be a part of it.
No, that's amazing. Kudos to all you guys. It was, and you know what it is? You guys did it beautifully. Like, seriously, it was absolutely beautifully done. It just, storytelling wise, the way you guys wrote it, and especially season 5, oh my God. And then episode 5, Save the Cat, with their whole thing, all those moments, you guys just knocked it out every single time. Like, there's not an episode that misses. You guys hit it every single time. So
it was pretty much, if it made us cry, we're like, okay, it's in.
How was that, watching it all put together? Like, did you guys have a watch party or anything?
Yeah. It was pretty magical. So we had seen some of as the animation came back in, we had been watching the episodes together, like at lunch, and all crying. But yeah, when the show actually came, unfortunately, when the show premiered and we did a big premiere party, when the show ended, that was COVID at that point. So we couldn't do like a wrap up finale party, but like At the premiere party, though, like we all watched it together and we all cried. And then, like we all, like a lot of us were watching the like animatics at home while we were making it and like would force, our significant others to watch it with us. So everybody knew the show by the time it came out.
I love
But yeah,
that.
it was just seeing it all put together, seeing it on Netflix, just magic, just really, really magical.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. You guys made a magical product, magical team, and your writing is just phenomenal.
Thank
Absolutely
you.
beautiful. So I'm looking forward to these other projects you got going on. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. So let's take an opportunity, promote some more of your stuff. I'll include the links, you guys. If there's anything you'd like to leave off with, anything else you'd like to talk about, more than welcome.
Well, yeah, like I said, there is a bunch of stuff coming out in 2023. Definitely everybody should check. If you like YA stuff with strong female characters, definitely check out the new Champion of Shazam. If you like romance, please check out My Adventures with Superman that's coming out next year. I can be found on Twitter at Cozy Jamble. I can also be found online. I have a website, cozyjamble.com, and that is kind of where I have a list of everything that's coming up, everything that you can look for, everything that you can buy, as well as like an FAQ for aspiring writers. If you've ever had questions about what it's like writing, working in a writer's room. I've got a section of my website that sort of talks about that a little bit and about breaking into animation. If you're a comic book reader, Lazarus Planet and Revenge of the Gods. I'm writing some backup stories for both of those events. Nice. And get ready for probably new stuff coming in the new year with My Adventures with Superman.
Sweet. That all sounds absolutely fantastic. Follow her. Check out her stuff. I will include her link. I will include her socials. All that stuff will be in the description. Thank you so much, Josie, for taking the time to do this. This was a really, really awesome time. You're an absolute pleasure to talk to.
Thank you.
Thank you again for all the work you did and the whole team. You just make beautiful work. So I look forward to more of your stuff. And I just thank you for your time. So let me sign off. For those of you, follow the socials, check out the Patreon link. All that's in the description. I thank you all so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye.